Hello everybody, it's Sylvie. Welcome or welcome back to Tarot Magpie. I hope you're doing very well. Today I'm doing a VR. I'm doing a VR to Honeyloo, who came up with a new tag called Unicorn Decks 23, in which she showed off all of her, unicorn wish list decks that she got in 2023, and I am doing the same thing. So I'm going to get more or less straight into it. These are all decks that I thought were going to be really difficult or really expensive or just really unlikely for me to get hold of. A couple of them are out of print. A couple of them were just extortionate shipping rates from the United States for the longest time. Yeah, so I'm gonna get straight into it because this intro doesn't need to be any longer than it is. So the first one that I have here, I don't know if my exposure is better or worse. I feel like it was underexposed and now maybe we're overexposed, I'm not sure. Anyhow, this is the Hobbit Tarot. This is an out-of-print mass market deck. This was originally published by US Games in 2012. Really? And it's out of print. Anyway, this is illustrated by Peter Perkraunik. It is based obviously on the story of the Hobbit, and we have these beautiful illustrations of different scenes from the Hobbit books to depict each of the card meanings. And this was just really hard to get hold of. There were a few copies that cropped up on eBay, but they were always like 50, 60 plus pounds, and I simply refused to spend that much money on, well, never say never because I can always find an excuse, but I refused to spend that much money on this deck because I thought, no, it was mass market, and there's always like the slightest chance that it will be reprinted and it will come back into print. Like, I don't know if that's a thing that happens, but I knew that if it did, I'd be real pissed that I spent £60 on it. So anyway, this one eventually popped up for like, I think it was about £20 that I paid, which I was really pleased with. This edition honestly seems like brand new, and it was a really lovely like surprise. Not a surprise exactly, because obviously I've been looking for it, but with the prices that I have seen it as, and I don't think this is the most the most well circulating deck, if that makes sense. Like if the copyright's 2012 and it's already out of print, I imagine there's not a million copies flying around. So it was pretty rare that I saw a copy come up, and I had kind of resigned myself to it taking a really long time to find a copy at a price point I was willing to pay. But it did, and this is my first unicorn deck of 2023. So these are the backs, which I really love. It's got the ring and the elvish. I'm a big Lord of the Rings Hobbit fan, both the books and the movies, even the Hobbit movies, which I know is a bit controversial, but I think they're a terrible adaptation of the book, but I enjoy them in their own right. So this is one that I have as a collector's item, as much as, why am I struggling with this box today? Oh my goodness. This is a collection piece as much as a tarot deck that I actually work with. And I do work with it, but that isn't the main reason I got it. The main reason I got it was to have the Hobbit Tarot deck. I will try and talk in circles slightly less. Let's grab, this is my other out of print unicorn deck. This one in slightly less fantastic condition. This is the Navigator Tarot of the Mystic Sea. This was also originally published by US Games in a mystery year. I think this was the 90s. I say it was like 97. Yeah, 1997. This was originally published, and I don't know how long it's been out of print for, but again, when I saw copies pop up, they were a little bit few and far between, at least on like this side of the pond. I have no idea what the situation is like anywhere else, but at least in the UK, it was pretty rare that I saw a copy pop up, and it was often silly amounts of money that I didn't want to pay. But this is just so incredibly cool. I love the art style. I love the weirdness and the wonderfulness of it all. The borders and the way this title is bordered is so 90s, and it gives me a lot of like nostalgia for that. And it's also got titles, which I think are really cool. And it's just a very, very cool deck. It feels very esoteric. It feels... So it's not a Thoth deck, but it has something about it that is reminiscent of the way that the Thoth deck is its own system, is its own, like, it's got its own symbology, or not its own symbology, but with the way that the colours are used and things like that, the Thoth system is its own system of the tarot. And this has a similar feeling to me. Like, I feel like this has its own kind of structure within a structure almost, or own way of building that same set tarot structure. I feel like I'm doing a poor job of explaining what I mean, but this just has something about it. The art is absolutely beautiful. And yeah, I was so pleased when I was able to snag a copy of this for, again, I think this was 20 something pounds, which is about what mass market decks go for new. Actually, often they're more expensive than that. And although the box is really bashed up, again, the cards are in really, really good condition. So again, I just feel like I got so lucky. So yeah, it is based on the Golden Dawn, and the Tree of Life is on the backs. So I suppose it makes sense that it reminds me of the Thoth, but it's not the Thoth artwork. It's like the energy that the Thoth deck has of, like, the way the Thoth is, I think it's viewed as being like quite groundbreaking because all of the symbology is actually front and center on the cards instead of like the Rider-Waite where it's just images. The Thoth is a very individual deck, and this also feels like a very individual deck. There, I think I finally managed to articulate what I mean. So this is the Navigator's Tarot of the Mystic Sea. Okay, the Mars Power Tarot. This is a deck that I've wanted for quite some time. When did this deck come out? Because I feel like I wanted it for years, but I don't even know if it's been out that long. Not a clue. Okay, so I don't know how long this deck has been out. This is a holographic version, so it looks hella shiny and reflective on camera because I've got the lights up. So it's a little bit hard to see the artwork, but it's easier to see in real life. But anyhow, this is created by Charlie Quintero of Six Sad Girls, and I saw this a year or two or whenever it came out ago. Immediately fell in love because I love, first of all, I love the color palette, all these like reds and bright colors. I love the chaotic energy of the artwork, like the way that a lot of these cards are so busy, or the way that the fonts are all different. Like there's just a lot of energy going on in these cards, and I really like it for that. I saw this, I fell in love. I realized that the only way for me to get this involved me spending over £100, including all the shipping and taxes. I think the only way I can get this, buying it from the artist, is through Etsy. And for some reason, buying through Etsy, the way that they calculate additional taxes and charges and all kinds of shit, and the shipping is also always monstrous. So I just can't buy decks through Etsy from the States, because the shipping is just outrageous, and this deck, it like doubles the cost of the deck. And I was like, well, I'm not spending that. I'm just now seeing this like mandala pattern in the way that it's holographic on this particular card, the King of Swords, and it's just stunning. Sorry, I interrupted myself there. Why is the Lovers upside down? Yeah, it would have doubled the cost of the deck, and I just wasn't willing to spend that much on a single deck. So I kind of resigned myself to maybe never getting my hands on this. I thought, well, if a UK indie tarot shop picks up copies, then I'll get it that way. But then when the Jupiter Power Kickstarter launched, this was available as an add-on. And for some reason, doing the shipping through Kickstarter, it worked out way cheaper than it ever would have done on Etsy. Like the shipping cost was just less money. And then in addition, because it was the Kickstarter prices, they were a little bit cheaper than they would be buying them full price anyway. So I ended up getting both decks for maybe like a little bit more than it would have cost me to just buy this full price. So yeah, I was really pleased with that. And I'm just very, very pleased to have this in my life, because I kind of resigned myself to it being one that I just wouldn't be able to get my hands on. There were a few US-based decks where the only option is Etsy. And I'm just like, well, that's just a deck that I can't have because the shipping is outrageous. So, shipping woes aside, that is the Mars Power Tarot. These backs, I point them out every time because I love them. I want these backs. I want this like framed. But then I couldn't use the deck. All right, this is the Citadel Oracle. And this is mass market. This is still in print. This is still in production. So it's bizarre to me that this even is a unicorn deck, because since this launched in 2023, this has not been difficult for me to get hold of. But for some reason, whenever I actually went to look it up to see how much it was costing, it was always either unavailable to ship, or like on Amazon, the price had just jumped up, like skyrocketed for no apparent reason that made sense to me. So whenever I actually tried to buy this deck, this mass market in production deck, it was either more money than I wanted to spend, or it was just unavailable. So it kind of became a very elusive unicorn deck. And then my sister bought me this for Christmas, so it ended up in my collection that way, which was very lovely. This is an oracle. This is fantasy RPG based. The guidebook's really cool. It's got ways to like incorporate it into like D&D or storytelling. And I've really been enjoying this. This is my favorite kind of setup. We've got a title and then we've got a couple keywords. I really like the limited color palette. I really love the size and the shape of this deck. And I love the way that it is archetypes rather than, you know, any other theme that an oracle might have. I enjoy that it's all different like kinds of character, and it's also beautiful. This, speaking of gifts and also speaking of gamified D&D vibes, this is the Spread Machine Quest expansion. And this is another one that is, it's indie, but it is still in print as far as I'm aware. But again, ooh, the only way for me to purchase this was through spending horrendous amounts of money on Etsy, which I was simply, unfortunately, not willing to do. The character cards are all on top at the moment because I just recently filmed a video playing with this deck and like building a character, which was really, really fun and is not getting a lot of love. So go watch it if that sounds interesting, because I really enjoyed filming that video. But anyway, this is a spread prompt. Did I call it Spread Crafters? It's the Spread Machine. In my head, I keep calling it the Spread Crafters Oracle, which it's simply is not what it's called. But anyway, this is a spread prompt deck. This is an expansion, but it stands on its own. And this was a gift. The lovely Sarah over at Tangy Tarot reached out to me and said that she'd watched the video in which I lamented the fact that I wasn't able to get this deck, and that she had a spare copy and could she send it to me. And evidently I said, yes, please. Thank you very much. And I now have this deck in my collection, which was a lovely thing to have happen. And I have played with this a little bit. I'm really enjoying it. I do still want the main deck, but I think I feel much less urgent about that. Like, if there is a way for me to, you know, acquire that either through maybe eBay, or if somebody in the UK starts selling them, then I'll be able to get my hands on it. But so far, like, I'm very satisfied with having this, and this is meaty enough that I think I would probably be quite happy to just have this. But anyway, so yeah, this one is still available. You can purchase it, but you've got to pay an arm and a leg for shipping if you're outside of the US. So yeah, this is RPG themed. We've got like, the themes are like fantasy, heroic quest kind of themes, and then we've got like side quest and like status effects like being paralyzed and boss fight. So for the gamers, for the D&D nerds, this is the spread deck for us. And I really like the way that it's set up. We've got like a couple different prompts on each card, and it means that when you're pulling cards to build a spread out of, it kind of gives you like options. And obviously you can take, you know, you can do whatever you like. You can take this and run with it, and whatever pops into your head as a spread prompt, it's done its job, you know. But I feel like this has a lot of usability, and it's not going to get tired, because this isn't the biggest deck. It's, I want to say it's like 40 cards or 40 something. I'm not sure off the top of my head. It might be like 44 cards. Like, it's not the biggest deck in the world, but because it's got like a lot of ideas on the cards of how to use each card, I think it's very versatile and very, very usable. It's not going to get tired. It's not going to get samey. So, although I say that, I use the same spreads more than once, so there's no reason that even if you do pull the same cards a lot, there's no reason that you wouldn't be able to reuse it. But I hope you get what I mean. It's a very versatile deck. It's also so cute. It's pink and orange. Pink and orange is like one of my like top tier favorite color combos. So it's so cute. I love that the gamey D&D one, which is my favorite theme, is also in my favorite colors. All right, finally, my final unicorn deck of 2023, which I got right at the end of 2023. I tell a lie. I got this one right at the end of 2023. I got this one like a week before Christmas, and this one like a week after. Anyhow, it's the Ritual Tarot by Tierra May. This is the new, look at that beautiful Princess of Cups. This is the new marked edition, and this is a unicorn deck because I couldn't commit to getting the earlier editions, partly, well, entirely because they were so expensive. And I think actually I didn't want to spend the price to get it shipped once again, because this is not a cheap deck as indie decks go. It is a more expensive indie deck. I don't know how much it is in like dollars because I didn't buy it from the US, but it's expensive, and then plus shipping was too much money and I couldn't commit to it. And then for some reason I didn't back this on Kickstarter, so I was like, right, it's the one that got away. I didn't back it. It is what it is. I shall move on with my life. And then the Boutique, which is a UK-based indie deck shop, had stock, and I jumped on it so fast and snagged a copy because I think she more or less immediately sold out of them. But because it's a UK-based shop, I didn't have to pay stupid money, and it ended up being slightly more expensive than the average indie deck, but not by a huge amount. So I feel like I got really lucky with the way that it all worked out. And it's beautiful, and I'm in love, and I've talked about this a bunch since I received it. I did a walkthrough actually, so if you want my initial thoughts on each card, go ahead and watch that, because I feel like I've talked about this deck a lot in the last couple of weeks and you're probably a little bit sick of it. But yeah, so that is my final unicorn deck of 2023 for this video, and that is 6 decks, which I think is very cool. We'll put her back on top. So yeah, that is 6 decks that I managed to get my hands on in 2023 that I, for one reason or another, thought were just never going to make it into my collection. I have a great many more unicorn decks on my kind of various wish lists, but we'll see what 2024 brings. I have committed to buy less decks this year, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, that's my unicorn decks 2023 VR to Honeyloo. Thank you so much for coming up with this tag. It's a really fun one. I've seen a couple of responses, and I'm nosy, so I like seeing what everybody's really excited about. But yes, that is it from me. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you've enjoyed. Give me a like if you liked it, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.